She got on at Yarraville Station on the Werribee line. I was all but fed up with the two hoons behind me opposite with all their foul-mouthed bravado. I buried myself in the new book I bought, the works of William Blake as chosen by punk goddess Patti Smith. By all accounts, the catalyst for many a classic rock lyric. The mobile phone rang directly behind me and a calm, measured, eloquent voice started to talk into the phone. "You lied, and I'm not listening anymore. You promised you'd stop taking drugs. I believed you. Now I find out you were selling them. I want a role model for my son, not someone who cheated on me not once but time and time again. I found out. My mother told me and warned me, but I didn't believe her. I believed you. Now I'm going back to Mum." The scenario was obvious. A young single mother with a pram on the Werribee line train, nursing her young boy, me, directly in front of her, involuntarily hearing every word. The two hoons were now silent. They got up out of their seats and moved further up the train compartment, then opened the door and went to the next carriage at the next stop, Newport. Her measured voice spelt out every single reason why she was on that train. I coughed and did that typical half look around to see that she was a young black African woman in her early 20s. I wasn't sure what stereotype was worse. The single mum on a train telling her cheating drug dealer boyfriend that she was leaving him, or me, the older white male, disappearing into a Werribee line train seat acting invisible, drone-like and uncomfortable. My stereotype demands that I don't give a shit and I'm supposed to look down my nose at teens in trouble, scoff at all the welfare and scoff because I would have never found myself in such a situation. My stereotype demands I mind my own business and keep my 54-year white man eyes on the book and my 54-year-old white man mouth fucking shut. Her stereotype demands that she joins the Centrelink handout queue every Thursday arvo with all the other pram pushers. Even worse, that she is a young black African woman, so painfully obvious she's a refugee. The stereotypes. I sat there and went through each one. I sat there and flicked through my book of Blake as edited by Patti Smith. I asked myself, what would Patti Smith do if this was a New York subway and not the Werribee line train heading into Laverton Station? Would Patti Smith just sit there, look the other way and not write a lyric about it? Her lyrics so openly influenced by William Blake, whose words were sitting on my lap? Patti Smith's introduction to Blake's work began with her telling the tale of her mother giving her a book of his work when she was a child. She held on to that book and kept it close for decades. If the stereotype demanded that Patti Smith looked away, would I have ever heard, "Life is filled with holes. Johnny's laying there, his sperm coffin. Angel looks down at him and says, 'Oh, pretty boy, can't you show me nothing but surrender?' Johnny gets up, takes off his leather jacket, taped to his chest, there's the answer. 'You got penknives and jackknives and switchblades preferred. Switchblades preferred,' then he cries, then he screams, saying, 'Life is full of pain, I'm cruising through my brain and I fill my nose with snow and go Rimbo.'" Patti Smith took great pains to describe the influence William Blake had on her. She also described that Blake himself went unrecognised during his life, as artistically usual. She described Blake as writing masterpieces whilst covered in ink from his engraving work in the Laverton and Werribee type areas of London. She described the young girls with matted blonde hair selling themselves on the street corner that Blake would walk past, and later described them as blonde angels because Blake loved all and loved people. Patti Smith described her hero's vision, a humanity redeemed by self-sacrifice and forgiveness, whilst railing against organised religion and its lack of empathy with the common man. Blake refused to stereotype, and I had his book on my lap. I bought it because of one poem I had in another book that went like this. There is a smile of love, and there is a smile of deceit, and there is a smile of smiles in which these two smiles meet, and there is a frown of hate, and there is a frown of disdain, and there is a frown of frowns which you strive to forget in vain. For it sticks in the heart's deep core, and it sticks in the deep backbone, and no smile that ever was smiled, but only one smile alone, that betwixt the cradle and grave it only once smiled can be, and when it once is smiled, there is the end to all misery. I earmarked that page of this poem in my newly bought book. I stood up, turned around, and looked at this beautiful young black African girl with a beautiful young baby sitting on her lap, playing with her mother's braided hair. She looked at me, the phone still at her ear. I smiled my own smile of some understanding, dropped the book into her pram, and got off the train.